Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Dreamland with your sensei, Bob. Here I am. This is what I really look like. You ever wonder why your life sucks? Look out, you see all these other people, and they just seem to be having such a great old time. But your life sucks. Why is that? You know why that is? You chose that. At any moment of any part of your existence, you can choose to be whatever you want to be. If you choose to suck, it's only because you need to learn something. So when your life is sucking, you need to say to yourself, what the frack am I, what do I need to learn about? Right? Okay. So here it is, somewhere around midnight. And I'm here at the undisclosed location. And it was quite interesting. There were a bunch of people who had their big meeting to decide what to happen, and that was fine. And I kind of talked to everybody individually about, maybe we should have a, co-op. Maybe we should have a, health center. Maybe we should have grow our own food. Maybe we should grow, And their little meeting was all about, structural, organizational, blah 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 blah, and that's fine because they need to learn about that, and so they'll experience that, see if their life sucks, right? And why it sucks, and all the above. And then their kids were like, running around and getting into things, and being the caretaker, I kind of kept an eye on them. And then there were the grandmas, and then there were the pregnant teenagers, and then there were and right there, all the other people who weren't in that meeting but were outside on the outside of the door. Those were the people that this, you know, care and share organization is supposed to be servicing, right? And I keep telling people, we have to stop, instead of giving a hand out, we need to give a hand up, right? So anyway, that's why I'm here. I'm the one person who talks about it. I'm the one person who organizes it. I'm the one person that makes all those things happen, right? And so on the outside, when the people were in the meeting room, and they set it up like a boardroom, and they dug out the most comfy chairs, and the 12 were sitting there. And I was there talking to them before the meeting started, and I was I made myself a really, really nice dinner out of some things I found in the garbage, like a can of, because they throw, oh, look, the date is off, So I was eating everything from the off date thing, and I cooked in a microwave, right? And I found a easy bake oven that really did a nice job on these, Pop Tarts, and so when it came in, it place, I go, boy, that smells good. What's that? And I was like eating the last of the bits, right? Because they all came back from wherever they got their cheeseburger or went out and got this stuff. And I saw two of them. I saw their cars, and I stopped in this restaurant, and the cheapest dinner they had was $60, and that's like $60. I live on $400 a month, so $60 is almost 1 week's worth of my disposable income. So I just, the lady who owned it, she came over, she knew me, and she took me over to the side and said, "Can I talk to you for a while?" I said, "Sure." I sat down. She goes, "I'm really having some issues, and last time you read my palm, it just stuck in my head, and I cried and cried and cried, and then I felt better, and a few things you told me to do has gotten me through this, but I still have some issues." So I sat there for a good 15, 20 minutes, and so she goes, "Well, but you were going to get dinner, weren't you? And I said, well, $65 for the cheapest meal you have, that's a bit much for me. He goes, oh, well, that's what we charge. And, I said, no problem. And I got my car and I came back here and I made myself, I kind of cruised through the dumpster behind a restaurant and got some nice things and then made a really nice dinner. And the people who came to sit at the, you know, executive table with the fancy chairs, they all kind of moseyed in. And I said, so what's the, what are you guys going to do? I don't know. But they're on the board. And I said, well, what do you think about this? I said, well, that sounds like a great idea. So how's your life going? Anyway, the person who was going to run it was like 40 minutes late. So I got to talk to everyone on the board about all these ideas, and all they could, their mouths were watering because I had, the smell of what I cooked in the micro. And it wasn't like I made something, not just got a frozen dinner and heated up in a I actually made something, and their mouths were watering. And then the two people who were going to run the meeting, they kind of said, well, okay, you can leave now. And so I got up, and it worked out perfect. I got these people to salivate while I was giving them ideas, so psychically it will be stuck in their mind. That is what TV commercials do, right? So my training as a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist, that was basically finding protocols so entities could get over on people. And I did it because I did exactly what I did with those people. I would stick little things into my work for them that when they would use these protocols, it would bring out the best in them and the other folk who were being, propagandized. So anyway, I did that, and I came out, and these kids were running around, and they were gonna. They had this guy who was supposed to be their coach, and he didn't know what the frick he was doing. He didn't do anything. And again, he was late, and so these guys were just running around throwing basketballs and like hitting each other in the head. And I said, no. And I made them do suicides. I said, here, get on this line and run real fast over there, right? And then run back, and so we're doing suicides. And then I made them run suicides bouncing the ball, right? So they could learn to practice. This is what you got to do, not just throw the ball at the hoop and never get it in. You got to do this, suicides, and so they're doing that, right? So then we did exercises on picking, where there'd be two groups and one group, and there was actually four groups, at one end of the suicide line, there were two lines, and at the other, there were two. And one of those lines would take the ball, and the other guy would be kind of in front of them, and they would pass it over that guy when the other guys coming from the other way would try to take the ball away, and they would do that back and forth, and then whoever was open would lay it up, right? So we're doing that, right? Then I got them on the foul line, and I showed them the trick of like focusing before you let the ball in. You bounce the ball, and then you hold it. You close your eyes, and you see the ball. You see yourself with the ball in your hands. You arch up, and you see the release, and you see. It's like a gun. You see where your hand is, and it's in the arc at the end of the arc. That's where the basket is. And so I had him do that. And I first had him just line up on the, I made two groups, and one guy would be, one group was by the basket, and the other group was on the other side of that thing of the box, and the guys would on the line of the foul line would shoot, and then if it went in or didn't, one of the groups would grab the ball and take it out and try to lay it up or pass it to the other guy, and they were doing that, right? And so then I got them all to get on the foul line and shoot foul shots and visualize it going in. And everyone who did it the ball went in, right? The guys who and they just bounce it and would bounce away, and then the other guys on the side would grab the ball and lay it up. So I'm doing that, and maybe for 20 minutes. The first 40 minutes, for the people on the line where they were waiting for the bosses to show up and give them the what they're going to talk about on the right, and I gave them all the ideas. I said, so what are you guys going to talk about? What's on the what's on the meeting? You know, and basically, whenever you have a group like that, you have an organization that wants to move forward and do something, you basically have a, you use a protocol, right? A meeting protocol. Robert's Rules of Order. That one sucks. If you use the hedgerow longhouse, which is an indigenous Celtic motif, where everyone gets to talk, you put the feather and you go to the left, and you set a protocol, right? Meaning, what are we going to talk about, right? And you do that at the end of the meeting. So for the next meeting, everyone knows what you're going to talk about, and you can think about it and write about it and go do some research about it, and you bring ideas to the next meeting, and you have a person who is the gatekeeper, meaning they go, so are you ready to talk about what we've said we were going to talk about? And if you want to bring another, well, I'm not really, with the last meeting, we decided to do this, and I want to talk about, nope, sorry, that was last meeting. We're now going to talk about this. And if you can't, focus on doing that, then you can't come in the meeting. I mean, that's the protocol. It works really well. I've been using it for the last 40 years on every level, corporate level, social level, every level, right? And see, I don't have to be the boss. I don't have to run anything. I knew they were gonna, I just walked in there and saw that they cleaned up the break room, and they had this big long table and they had these chairs. Obviously, they're having the board meeting, right? And so and I had gotten all this. I saw these two people were gonna. I said, "So why are you here? Oh, we're gonna go at the board meeting. Oh, okay." And then I walked down, and the lady said, "Can I talk to you?" Right? I gave her more insights on her woes, and did she give me a meal? No. It would have been nice. I didn't expect it. I didn't care. I went to her dumpster, and there was great stuff that she threw out. She threw out a whole big salmon. It's like, really? I smelled it. So that smells fine. Brought it back. I cut it into fillets, put them in little sandwich bags, put half of them in the freezer, and the other half I kind of cooked up. Cooked up about four of them. And I sauteed them and all this other kind of stuff I've been making over the last 2 weeks, because I just keep putting, finding, oatmeal and pimento cheese and whatever stuff I can find. And after I cook it up and eat it at that moment, and the other day, this other place, I found they threw out a box of vegetables, you know, um, what do you call that stuff? They look at pumpkin and squash and all those kind of that family. Had a whole bunch of them, and they had green peppers and red peppers. Yeah, they were a little wilted. They had no fuzz on them. They didn't smell bad. So I picked up that box and brought it back and sliced it up and washed it off. And then I put it in sandwich bags and stuck it in the freezer. But I had other ones that I cooked up, and I kept recooking and recooking and this other stuff. So with that salmon I had, and with all this rice and oatmeal and peppers and pimento cheese and mashed potatoes, and I found a big, somebody had made great stew, and they ju- burnt the pot. So they threw the whole pot and the stew out, and the top part of the 3/4 of that stew was great. Nothing was burnt. Yeah, it had a little burny. It's like, as if you barbecued it. So have a barbecue sauce and ketchup packets and mixed it all together and you know zinged it in the what you call it microwave and then let it cool down and zinged it again and then let it cool down and then mixed it up and put some other stuff and and every time I took it out it would make the room smell better and better until it was like, ooh yeah, this is it. And then I had these Pop Tart thing, not Pop Tart things, but the things like biscuits that are in a roll, and you hit it on the side, and it kind of explodes, and then you cook them up, and there was a couple of those that somebody had opened up half of them and left the other half in there, and then threw them away, and I took them home, and they had the ones that were like little slicey things of like a croissant, and so. I kind of rolled the salmon and the cookie stuff the stuff I had done in the salmon and all that, and wrapped it up in the croissanty thing, and then put it in this like easy bake oven, and made these beautiful fluffy croissanty rolls filled with salmon and all this other good stuff. And about 10 of those, right? And it was just amazingly yummy. And a couple bottles of water and cup of coffee, and I ate that. So I got there about 4:30. I was going to go on and talk to you guys, but I got into looking at other stuff, everything what Donnie Chump is doing, and the rest of the chipmunks. I mean, Donnie and the beautifulness of it's one thing to have a corrupt system like we have, and the United States has been corrupt since Christopher Columbus got here, right? So um, there's nothing great to make great again, right? But the one thing that America does have that no one else does have, and that's immigrants, and we are like the salad bowl of of, of the world. We have all these different people, and they come here, and our country was so big, and it needed to constantly expand and have people doing stuff, and it is the metaphor of why we're here on Earth in these bags of water as human beings, and it's to experience life. But we have kind of stretched it out in this motif of a life, like a linear thing. But our existence, our soul, isn't a linear thing. Let's see. Let's see if I have something here. No, it's not there. Let's look at the other one. Oh.
Have you ever looked at your life, your struggles, your heartbreaks, and wondered, why me? What if I told you the answer is shocking? You chose this. Every painful loss, every moment of triumph, even that unexplainable connection with a stranger, it's all part of a plan you created before you were born. Your life was no accident. Every decision, every challenge, every relationship, and every moment was intentionally designed by your soul in a dimension beyond time and space. Before you took your first breath, you existed in a realm where you could see your entire life unfold. You chose your parents. You chose your struggles. You even chose the people who would challenge you the most. Why? Because the only way to evolve as a soul is to experience the full spectrum of life, the good, the bad, and the transformative. But here's the catch. This knowledge has been suppressed, hidden, and ridiculed for centuries. Why? Because if you truly understood how much power you have, if you knew you could rewrite the script of your life at any moment, the systems of control that profit from your confusion, fear, and suffering would collapse. They don't want you to know this, but you're here now, and there's no turning back.
But there's one thing he hasn't said yet, and that is you have to get out of your own head. So after I basically, um, set the agenda for the board meeting, uh, and the two people who were spending a lot of money on their dinner and making everyone wait for them, um, they didn't realize what I was doing, having a much, much yummier dinner than they had. And then the whole board was there, they moseyed in one at a time. So I got to talk, the first guy came in, I talked to him, second guy, we talked to three of us, and the fourth, and then we talked, and the newest one who would come in would enter into this group. That is the grandmother's council, and that's what I kept saying. This is the grandmother's council. I'm like, what's that? I said, that is a group of people. You don't have to be female to be a grandma. What you have to do is bring experience and responsibility and a motivation to do your best. So as each new person came in, I would say, they said, what? I said, this is the grandma's council. Oh, it's not the board man? No, that's going to come later. This is the grandma's council. And so about 11 or 12 people were there before the other two people who were in charge showed up. And they said, okay, Al, you can go now. And I said, okay. And I left that room with this. Everyone was drooling because before the first person came in, I had finished, I had digested, I had sat back, made myself a cup of coffee, and cleaned up my mess and put things away. But the smell of that amazing food was still there, right? Little did anyone know that all that food came out of dumpsters, right? Or garbage, what we throw away. And that's what I've been doing since 2014. I gave away all of my wealth, right? I sold everything and gave it away. I didn't lose it. I gave it away, right? And I gave it away like in honor of God, in grace of God, in gratitude of God, right? I gave it away. Not as some kind of offering at a church where, the Pharisee would spend it on gambling and horse. No, I basically gave it to people who really needed it, right? So I did that, and then I've been living since then. That was 2014, so that's 10 years, and we're going on 11 years now. So I've been doing that. So I lost the 240 pounds. They didn't cut my legs off. They didn't take 20 feet out of my colon. They didn't basically do open heart surgery, right? And so I still am totally screwed. I mean, my joints, my everything. It's everything's painful, but it's okay because with that suffering comes knowledge. And once you and I say this 20 times a day, God, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm totally lost here. Please take care of this for me. Right? When my legs hurt or can't walk anymore, I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna keel over. I sit down and say, God, I have no idea what's going on, but you take care of it, okay? And because I am at your service, So that's what I do every day, 20 times a day. That's why I'm still alive 10 years later. So after that, I went down there and people started showing up. Kids were playing basketball and the coach hadn't showed up. And the grandmas and see, that's part of the thing is that here's these kids between the ages of 8 and 14. And 95% of their parents are either in jail or dead or on drugs. So Mama and Papo are taking care of them. But half of the Papos are drunks and drug addicts and also beating up the kids and sexually molesting them, right? And our, state and county child welfare entity is not doing so well because they've been defunded a great deal, and they're going to be even defunded more. Wait till Donnie's girlfriend who gave him $50 million. She's going to become head of education, and she has no training in it. Her only training is she was married to a guy who started the World Federation TV wrestling thing and became a multi-hundred millionaire, right? And that's So, what kind of education you think we're going to have in 2 years? Not the best. I mean, we really don't have the best now, right? And we're going to put this guy anyway. So all these guys who are there are all MAGA folk, right? And they're already, gasoline has already started to rise around here, right? It was down to two. Well, there were, it's under $3, and there were places that were at 270, but there were other places at 245. They've kind of gone up by 3 or 4 pennies, right? And the places that are the most expensive are in the poorest neck of the woods. Where the richer people are, that's where, Johnson City, Elizabethton, what's that place over there? Jonesboro. Gas is like, 245. So, but it's going up. And so it's very interesting. And already I see the food prices. Eggs are starting to go up again, right? And so I have a lot of people who get a hold of me. And you can get a hold of me at the dudeawake42 at Gmail. And if you want to, we can have a nice tete-a-tete, mano-y-mano, right? So, and you can make comments here on the live chat. And so anyway, the kids, I had them do all that kind of fun stuff, and then the two coachy people showed up, and then the grandmas who brought them. I found this one grandma out in the car, and I said, "What are you doing out in the car?" She goes, "Oh, my grandson, he was embarrassed. I brought him here because his mother's drunk, and I drove him here, and and it was getting cold because we don't have. I couldn't just keep the motor running because we don't have enough gas. I don't know if I get home." I said, "Okay, come on in here." And so we were sitting in the warmest part of the undisclosed location, and it ended up being about 6 grandmas, right, and a couple of moms, and so we started talking, and there was just one girl who was like going around and going through all the rooms and getting people. She was making them little bags of like toothbrushes, and which is good. That's when I'm get rid of all the shit. Give it away. So and one of the rooms, the people in charge locks everything up when they leave. So they one of the rooms, luckily, the ones that had toilet paper and paper towels and toothbrushes and stuff like that, sanitary, all that kind of stuff. So she was, they gave her a roll of garbage bags to fill up, and so she was filling that up. And where she could find cans of food, she kind of threw them in there. And so she came out, and she wants to be on that board. She wants to be that, right? But she annoys those people there, so they like, don't let her be part of the board, right? And she's poor, she's and she has issues about common sense. She let her house get cold. I gave her a heater and a dehumidifier and a few other things. And if she just kept them on at certain peaks of time when it's the coldest and let the water drip, she didn't do any of that. And so her pipes froze. And it's been, during the day today, it was 20 degrees. Until it gets 40, 50 degrees for a couple of days, her pipes aren't going to not freeze. And I would bet you dollars to donuts when things thaw out, she's going to have some leakage. So anyway, that's So we were talking, and we a number of those people know me. Have known me for years. Others were know of me, but didn't really ever talk to me. So we went around and talked about what we thought this should be, and what and people were coming up with ideas, and the people who had been here, who grew up here. I said, so tell me what it was like when you were. Where did you go to school, and what was that like, and did you know so and so, and da 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 da, and what's it difference, and blah blah blah, and and so I didn't run the show really, but everyone talked more. I just was like the facilitator. That's my job. I mean, I'm the caretaker, right? I take care of things. So that's kind of what I did tonight. And those girls, so the board kind of broke up relatively. They started at 7, and the basketball guys started at. They were supposed to start at 6, and I had finished eating at about 5:45, and I was thinking about doing a show, and that was the warmest room. And then the first board guy, he says, "Oh, Al, you're on the board now." I said, "Nah, nah." He kind of chuckled. He goes, "Shouldn't you be?" I mean, I said, I don't need to be on the stinking board. I'm talking to you right now, right?" And he chuckles again. And I said, "So how was your day?" And he goes, "Well, he works outside excavation." He said, "This is cold." I said, "Come on, it's been cold before." He says, "Yeah, I got spoiled. It's been really warm the last 6 winters." I said, "Yeah. So here's one that was like when you were 10 years old." And we talked about that. And then the next person walked in, and we talked about blah blah blah. When the third one came in, I said, "Okay, there's more than two of us here. Let's say a little prayer, right?" So we said a little prayer, and I introduced the concept of grandmother's council, and they wanted to know what that was, and I, described to them what it was. They said, "Well, that sounds a great idea. To get involved and be your best and make the most out of something, and not, be stuck in a structural form. Yeah, I like that." So anyway, and then I told them about the, hedgerow longhouse process. Oh, right, that sounds a facilitator, and everyone gets to be boss. We change who's the boss with each meeting. It's not the same person all the time. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so we're right, and then the fourth person showed up, and then then so what are you guys talking about? When I let them describe the process and the prayer, and the concept of the grandma's council, and then within an hour, and they're all going, "What's that smell?" I said, "Well, that was my dinner." Wow. Where'd you cook it on? Where's the kitchen? I said, "In the microwave." You made a meal smell that good out of a microwave? Where did you get that? I said, I got it out of a dumpster. They said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, we're the two guys who is supposed to be here by now to facilitate this. The chairman of the board and the vice chairman of the board, they were at the expensive restaurant, and I went in there to see them, and they were like, being hoity-toity. And then I was thinking of like sitting next to them and having dinner, but the cheapest thing was $60, and so I was walking out, and then the lady who runs it, we talked, and we each got a cup of coffee out of that. And she told me, why she left. I said, "So what? Who's got the donut shop?" He said, "Oh, we took that over from that girl. She just didn't know anything about business." So this girl started a really pretty good business, made really good donuts, um, made the donut shop, had she really into coffee. She bought, spent all her, she bought a ton of coffee, and had the coffee machine and the espresso thing, and da da da. She probably put 20, 30 grand into it, and then she started doing it, and then the event happened, and so she gave half of her stuff away, and no one gave her any money. And the lady who had the hoity-toity restaurant still charged her hoity-toity rent, and so she kept it going, and then she owed him a bunch of money, and then the hoity-toity lady took, okay, well, I'll take all the beans and all the equipment, and all all the how to make donuts and all of that. And you can work here. I'll pay you you know $8 an hour. And she did that for a while, and then she got depressed, and she came from Florida, went back to Florida. And anyway, so that's then I went to the dumpster, picked out that salmon and a few other things, and then went made that yummy dinner, and then had the board learn about all that stuff, and they were salivating, so it like affected their brain. And then the hoity-toity chairman of the board and vice chairman showed up and said, "Okay," and I said, "Sure, I've done my work here." And I go, "Wait, now those two know because they." When they're about to pull their hair out, I kind of take them off to the side and we talk. And I've done that with them now for 10 years. And they would not be where they are today if they hadn't had me to be their counselor. Now they know all this, and they take care of me. I have to say they do take care of me. And but they still have that attitude, and I don't care. See, I don't like get upset or any of that because a lot of other people do. And I don't care because they're at least doing that job. I don't want to do that job. I don't want to be the hoity toity, but somebody has to do that, right? And that's what this guy is talking about, right? We're going to go back to him.
Before birth, your soul existed in a state of pure consciousness, a realm that Tibetan Buddhism calls the bardo and Hermetic teachings describe as the plane of causation. In this realm, your soul operated not as flesh and bones, but as an energy field deeply attuned to universal laws. You weren't limited by fear, doubt, or ego. You were limitless. You could see the ripple effects of every choice, every action, and every relationship. You crafted a life that would stretch your soul to its fullest potential, knowing that growth only comes through challenge. Imagine a divine drafting table, where you and your guides, beings of infinite wisdom, laid out the blueprint of your human journey.
Wow.
You chose every detail with precision, not randomly, but with purpose. The parents who would raise you? Chosen. The struggles you'd face? Chosen. The opportunities that would knock on your door? Chosen. Even the heartbreaks that would break you open and reveal the depths of your own strength were chosen. All of it was designed to teach you, to push you, and to help you evolve. But why would anyone choose pain? Why would you choose heartbreak, betrayal, or failure? Here's the truth they don't tell you. The soul craves evolution. It doesn't fear pain the way we do in our human form. It knows that the only way to grow is to be tested, to face adversity, to overcome. A life without challenges might be comfortable, but it would leave the soul stagnant, unfulfilled, and disconnected from its infinite potential. Ancient texts like the Emerald Tablets and the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism echo this truth. The Emerald Tablets teach us that, as above, so below. What happens in the higher realms mirrors what happens in the physical world. Before you were born, your soul vibrated at a frequency that aligned with your future life. If you carried unresolved lessons or karmic imprints from past lives, they shaped the blueprint of your current incarnation. Think of it like magnets, pulling you toward the people, places, and experiences that would help you.
So that's what my life has been. And I'm being conscious of that, right? So I've had plenty of trials and tribulations and miseries and pain. I had a lot of pain. I was a real sick kid, and and I learned how to not be sick. At 10 years old, I said, "That's it. I am not getting sick ever again." And I had a number, like when I was, I guess, fifth grade. I was up, in gym class, so we had to climb up top of a rope. I'm sure they don't do this anymore. That rope was like 30 feet tall. We climbed up the top of the gym, 30 feet up there, and no net, no, safety lines, just crawling up that rope. And Richard Lasco wanted to go, and he just grabbed the bottom of that rope and just sent a wave straight up that rope, and it flicked me off like a flea. And I went flying through the air, and I was flying, tumbling, tumbling, tumbling. And as I was tumbling, everything was in slow motion. I saw everyone's face in the gym class, and there was like horror on their face. And as I tumbled around and saw Richard Lasco, he was like picking his nose and eating it, and everyone was running out the door because they didn't want to see the terrible catastrophe that was going to happen. And as I was tumbling, now I could have tumbled and fell on my head and broke my neck dead, right? And I probably did in a another universe, right? And or broke my back and been paralyzed for the rest of my life. But as I was tumbling, I was coming towards the floor of the gym, and I just turned around where I was facing. Right there, I was about 6 inches from hitting the floor, and I put my leg out like I was stepping off a step, and my foot took the floor, and my ankle snapped like a twig, and I had a compound fracture. Came right on my leg, and but it didn't break any veins, or it wasn't like spurting blood. It was just the bone was sticking out, and it looked pretty bad. And I was like lying sideways on it. I see Richard Lasco, sucking the boogers off his finger, and he touches the raggedy bone that's sticking out of my leg. He goes, "Boy, look at that. That's cool." And he touches it. It was like that picture up in the Sistine Channel where, God's hand is coming out of the cloud and touching, uh, you know, dirt, and then there's Adam. Well, bang, that lightning bolt hit my bone, and that was out, gone. Didn't feel any pain. I woke up, I don't know, the next day or 2 days later, and my leg was in a cast all the way up to my hip. And what happened was the ambulance came. Everybody who showed up knew exactly what to do right, and they did it. They got me to the hospital, and just happened that in the hospital there's one doctor who developed a whole new technique for compound fractures like I had. He was world famous, and he just happened to be there to give a lecture. And you know what better? And they had one of those things where everyone stands up on the ceiling and looks down through the glass at the operation. A operating theater. They had one of those, and so he had the perfect example to show these guys how to do the process on my leg. So I had the world famous doctor, do the process, and that's why my leg is A, fucked up, but B, not fucked up. Where that broke is, it's like the strongest part of my leg, right? So that's been my whole life. That kind of unbelievable, wow, and there's the guy, one in a million doctors to fix me, right? So that has been my whole frigging life. Catastrophe, miracle. And it's been going on for so long that I understand that this is what's going to happen. And I've died 7 times, right? And of those 7 times, I've had 4 life reviews, right? And each one was great because, like, I remember when I was 16, I was working at a camp for ghetto kids, right? I was doing all this stuff. So when it came time for me to get drafted, I would have a record of all this crazy social things that I've done. So I would have a curriculum vitae to show these guys that I shouldn't go off to war, but I should be a conscientious objector, right? And do alternative service. And so I was doing that. And so we're at this Camp Orenda, up there near where the U.S. Army has their college, where all the famous generals went to, and right up there, upstate New York, right near where the Palisades. It's above the Palisades, off the Hudson. Really beautiful place. Lake Orenda, right on the lake, and and our camp. And the camp had been a World War One Army kind of thing because we were right next to where the Army College was, and we had all these, ghetto kids, right? Street kids, and there was about 16 of us, and we were all, basically white guys, bourgeois, doing this so we wouldn't get drafted. We were all that way. And we had one guy of color. He was Egyptian, Eddie, and he was from Chicago. And he had street smarts. I mean, I did too. I grew up in Harlem. I was a African American that was melanin challenged. And so is it this late that nobody's showing up? Is that it? But there's 3 likes, right? So I hope you guys go back and watch this show. This is one of those really good shows that you should watch, right? This is like, I mean, they're all great shows. You should watch them all. You should go back and like, like a roulette wheel and like bloop, 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 and find one of the good ones, right? So anyway. So at Camp Arenda, what happened was none of us had worked with ghetto kids, I mean, I did, Eddie did. There was another guy who came from St. Louis who was, had some street smart, but the rest were just bourgeois. And so we had to fix this place up. Now I'm an electrician, so I'm like, wiring everything so no one gets electrocuted. And we're cleaning stuff up, and we had no real anything. And our cook was a drunk, and so he never, he burnt everything. It was terrible. And our fearless leader, the guy who was in charge of the camp, he had just been a counselor the year before. This is 1968 or 69. I'm not quite sure, somewhere. But it was right when there were riots everywhere. And so they were getting us, this camp had been around for, I mean, the Boys Athletic League had been around for a good 50 years, but they would maybe get 2,000 or 3,000 kids out into the woods from the city. Well, after the riots, the federal government gave them some money and they got 60,000 kids out. So they did not have the infrastructure. That's why we were fixing up this, military facility that was right off the edge of the U.S. Army College for their leadership, whatever the name of the place is called. Anyway, I mean, we could hear them. We were on the other side of the hill from the artillery range, right? So anyway, so the guy who was our fearless leader, he never did it. He never told us what to do or how to do it. We kind of figured out we had to clean this place up. We have to make it, the water work, the electric work, So it was a kid whose father was a plumber, so he had known plumbing. So he was doing that. I was doing the electrics. Everybody else was cleaning the crap out of the place. And we had the Red Cross lady would come up and give us stuff, like to clean things up and tools. She was pretty cool. She brought up stuff, and she would also bring up food, and she would cook stuff because our cook was a frigging just drunk. I mean, he would, our basic meals were burnt, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I mean, how do you burn it anyway? So she kind of, because she was somewhat involved in this camp, right? So even though the Boys Athletic League was getting the boys there, she was kind of administering so there was another organization that was involved. And so because these 3 organizations, they all did stuff, but nobody took responsibility. And everyone knew this was a fuck show and it was a shit storm ready to happen. And they don't even tell us what kind of boys we're going to have. I'm saying, so what, how old are these kids, blah, blah, blah. And well, they're between 16 and 7. I said, well, at the same time? Oh, no, they come in different ways. So which group comes? So no one told us anything about anybody. We had no records of who was coming up. So we had no idea who they were. anything about them. We had no idea. And so we had 3 weeks. We cleaned the place up. We have actually a really good time. And on Lake Orenda, across the lake, is this girls' camp of the Girls' Vacation Fund. And you know, there's this like nice little trail that goes around the lake and connects these two camps together. So the girls would come over because they didn't even have a drunk as a cook, right? And they didn't. They were being, we had the Red Cross and this other entity and the Boys Athletic League. They had these two churches that were from like Idaho, you know, funding them, right? These girls had not a clue. They all come from the Midwest and they were about to go to college and they were horny as all get out and had no idea about what was going to go on, and neither did we. So that first 3 weeks, it was great because, first couple of days, me and the plumber guy get the water working, get the electric going, and then the girls come over. They come to our place. We don't go. We didn't even know they were over there. They came over and said, "Well, hey, can you guys give us a hand? Nothing works, and we're scared." And I mean, these girls were beyond bourgeois, but they were like in short shorts and halter tops. And I mean, these girls were. This is 1969. They were like ready for it, right? And so, I said, okay. I think Eddie said this. So this is, we and their person who was supposed to be in charge or had already skipped out, right? Took the camp car, so they didn't even have a way to get. And the people who were supposed to be running it, like we're in Idaho, and this is upstate New York, and they don't have a clue. And there isn't a single black or brown or anybody, not even a Chinese person. Every one of those girls was as white could be, right? And so, and how old was I? I guess it was 66, really, because it was, or 60s. I was about 17, so 67. Anyway, so these girls come over, and Eddie goes, okay, this is how it's going to work. You girls help us work on our place. Let's get this place, and you stay here with us. Because we went over and looked at their place, and it was actually worse than our place was. I mean, structurally, it was probably a little better than our place. They had a nicer, like, cafeteria or kitchen, and they had a nicer of that, right? And so, they said, yeah, because they had nothing. They had no lights, they had no plumbing, nothing was working. We right up and within one day, I got lights working, and the plumber guy, I got the water moving, and he got the toilets to work and the sinks to work, and we were working on making it better. And so there were a couple of girls whose daddies were electricians, and they actually kind of knew about, so they said, "Oh wow." I mean, they were scared to try and turn their electric on, but they knew about switches and outlets and how to fix a lamp in the ceiling and all that kind of stuff. So we broke into a really good team. So 3 or 4 nights, the first day they kind of come over. I mean, first day we kind of get something going on. Next day, that's when the girls showed up, right? Well, whoa, this is kind of cool. And so Eddie comes up with this idea: girls, you can stay with us. We got plenty of room and beds and everything, because they came over and we were, in the midst of working, and they said, "Oh, can you help us?" And there wasn't an ugly girl there. And so, we went over and looked at, and their place was in worse shape than ours, but in some ways better than ours. And so, because ours was a military base, theirs was actually a girls' school. So it was, but it hadn't been, nobody been in the thing for like 20 years. So Eddie comes up with this idea. We, and within that day, that night, we get our place. Actually, what happened was we spend the afternoon, summertime, right? So it doesn't get dark until 9 o'clock. So it's about 3 o'clock. They came over around 7, 8. We go and look at their place. We get back by 10, um, and we kind of figure out how we're going to do this. And so the girls I said, any of you girls know anything about carpentry, electric, plumbing? And one girl's daddy was a plumber. She knew a little something. So the plumber boy and her, got into the plumbing thing. And two girls were electricians, and one girl was a carpenter, right? And Eddie's, background was kind of carpentry. So we're all getting it going. So by 4 o'clock, it's still bright, beautiful day. I said, why don't we go over to girls' place? Well, we got some light and see if we can get their electricity and their water working. That would be really great. Within 2 days of us all being here, we get this up to this level. This will be great. So we all go over there, and they actually have more food than we do, and that's why they were because everything was frozen. They had no freezers. Nothing worked. Couldn't cook anything, and they had electric stoves, right? So I pulled the meter, jumped everything, got power to the panel. We buzzed everything out. First, got the kitchen and the dining room thing, which was really a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It was like up a floor, and underneath was like the same thing, but covered by the floor. So it was like covered up there, had a roof over it, but it was all open all around. So if it was like raining really hard, you'd get drenched. But down below, you could be dry. Down below, they had some really. They had like a art room, and they had this room and a sewing room, and all kinds of like it was a girls' school, right? So we're exploring. We get the lights working first thing. We get their water working. We get their refrigerator working. So we move all the frozen stuff that was about to thaw into at least refrigeration, and we get the kitchen kind of working, and we clear out the upstairs, and they have these nice kind of picnic table y things, and so we get the 10 or so that are in pretty good shape and aren't going to kill you if you sit on them. And so by the time 6 o'clock rolls, and they have a really beautiful fireplace in the middle of this thing, right? Open fireplace and goes straight up through the roof. And so we build a big kind of bonfire. So we start out small just so we don't burn the thing down. And it works. And so we add more wood. And I had this beautiful fire in the middle of it. We're all sitting around. And, the girls have some nice music. So they bring out their boom boxes, and we got tunes. And a couple of girls got instruments, and a couple of the guys play too. So while they were cleaning our place up, they saw that we had instruments. So there was, woman who played the flute, to guy who had a couple of drums, and girls with banjos and guitars and violins, and the guys had a couple of guitars, and a couple of guys had electric guitars, and so we actually had some pretty good music. So we're like jamming away and dancing and jumping around, and we kind of um, pair up, like so the plumbing guy kind of is really hitting on all cylinders with the plumbing girl. The two electric girls are like using me as lunch meat, and they're older than I am. I'm kind of the youngest person there, right? And so, but I've been, I'm grew up in Harlem. By this time, I've already worked a couple of years for Bob Goddard and at the Fillmore East, and I've been working for Grandpa Stahl, so I'm kind of been socialized pretty good, and everyone's kind of coupling up or grouping up, and we're just having the best old time, being the best human beings we can, and a couple of the girls and Eddie and a few other people had some party favors, so everyone's lighting up and having a grand old time, and some people have some libations, and that's all good, and the two electric girls and I really, they come from pretty straight laced families, so they don't drink and they don't smoke, and I don't really either, right? So that, but they're really into sex. These girls really liked sex, so we didn't need anything to loosen our. We didn't have inhibitions. And their parents were as close as to bohemians as you could get in the Midwest, right? So these girls had open minds. They were quote unquote liberals, right? But liberals in a good way. This is 1967, whatever that was. So anyway, so we're having a grand old time, and we're dancing, and music is being played, and we're playing drums, and we're all barefoot, and the floor is well sanded, and we're just having a great old time. And it's a beautiful night, and we go out to where the lake is, and they actually have canoes. They have aluminum canoes, right? So we kind of, some people go out in the canoes, some people are skinny dipping. We build a fire out there. They have a nice fire pit out there, and we're like we're all kind of naked, pretending we're Indians, and so it's just a grand old time. And this is like the first evening we've been with the girls, and so right away we have an unbelievable simpatico, right? So we have the first 2 days we have pretty much got things well in hand. Things work. Got electricity. Got running water. We find this one room that has actually mattresses in that aren't like rotten, that are in pretty good shape. So we start, making rooms, and we split up everything. Meaning, the path from the girl camp to our camp is really less than a mile on a very nice path around the lake. Very, very, very nice path. Right, so no big deal. So and you can see that there were campsites along this very nice path. Right, there were fire pits here and there, and no one's had used any of this for 20 years. So yeah, things are grown over and stuff. But we're getting the lay of the land, and we're seeing what it is, and we basically everything's working. It's flowing. We're not having any meetings, any plans. We're just doing it, right? And the kids aren't going to show up for another 2 or 3 weeks. This is like June. We got there, I think, May 20th, and the kids weren't going to show until like June 20th. We had a good almost month to get things ready. So anyway, next day we go, okay, so we got things pretty. It's a lot. We know what we have to fix. We know what we have to do. Let's go see the stuff we can find, right? So we spent the whole night over at the girls' place. In the morning, the few of us who can cook pretty well, we make a very nice breakfast because they had eggs and a few bacon, and we make pancakes and a few other things. Some fruit, so we had fruit, and so we had quite a nice little brunchy. So so by we get up with the sun. I don't even think we really went to bed. We kind of crashed out probably by 4 in the morning, and then the sun came up, and we were like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So, and we're all kind of still naked, right? Until we're going, oh, okay, put clothes on maybe. So, but we're walking around barefoot, and it's like, no, no, let's, there's nobody here. Nobody tell us what to do. It's all good, right? And the guy who was our leader, he did not. He freaked out. He kind of went up into there's a sort of like chief of the cabin where the head leader is, and he just like locked himself away up there. And so anyway, we come back, pretty much, got a little something on, and we have breakfast, and I people just go, let's see what this place. Our place is straight up. It's this cafeteria kitchen, this kind of, I wouldn't even call it an auditorium. It was a big room with a roof and a front porch, and then a bunch of bunkhouses. Right, that was about it, and a big bathroom, right, that everyone shared, and then another bathroom that didn't have toilets but had split trenches. Anyway, so we kind of knew what that was, and these girls had, like I said, it was a girls' school, so they had a pretty nicer. So we found all these mattresses, and they were in pretty good shape, and then we just kept finding other rooms with stuff, and we found this arts and crafts room, and I'm an artist at this time, and there was two other girls who were artists, and one of the electrician girls was an artist, and so there was the artist crew, me and Eddie, and a really tall guy, and really great artist too, great painter. His name will pop into my mind, and we were best buds, right? So anyway, so there's about six of us who were the artists. So there's the arts and crafts room, and we're digging through that. And there's the other room that had sewing machines and all this like bolts of stuff to make dresses and stuff, right? So we come up with this idea of being, because we that night we were dancing around. I said, why don't we be Indians instead of white people? Because there are going to be all these kids coming up, and I would, dare to guess they're coming from the ghetto, so they're not going to be like us. So we got to find another culture that isn't black, isn't Hispanic, isn't white. That's something else, right? Let's be Indians. And they kind of, and this girl, there's this like other room, so there's the arts and crafts room, and there's a library, right? And this girl finds these books on the Indians of upstate New York, the last of the Mohicans, the Iroquois Nation. And we go, wow, this is a sign. And everything was a sign, right? And so so we decided to be Indians. And the girls loved going bare-breasted, and because there's nobody up there. There's no one looking over our shoulders. There's no one even knowing we're there. So the girls wore these like little like skirts, Indian skirts. So really, what do you call those things? A thing in the front and the thing in the back and the open sides, whatever you call that. And we kind of made moccasins because, yeah, we were being stupid and thinking we could run around, but a couple of people were breaking their toes, and there was a girl who was actually, in medical school, so she was our doctor, and there were a couple of girls whose daddies were doctors. They were the nurses. So, I mean, we were starting to get our community together, and so but there were some thespians. Like I said, there were the musicians, and there was a couple of girls who were amazing gymnasts, and there were guys who were gymnasts, and there was archery centers. A couple of people who were really good at archery. That was their thing. So it was like magic. Everything was happening, just like you know. And we would have dreams, and people would go, you know, they were. It was like this.
Heal, grow, and transcend. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. While your life may feel predestined, it's not set in stone. Imagine your blueprint as a map. The destinations are marked, but the route you take, the pace at which you travel, and the detours you choose are entirely up to you. This is the paradox of free will and destiny. Yes, you chose your challenges before birth, but how you navigate them is entirely your choice. This is where your power lies. Even now, in this very moment, you have the ability to rewrite the script of your life. You can choose a different path, shift your perspective, and align with your soul's true purpose. The key is understanding the hidden mechanics of the universe, laws like karma, vibration, and attraction. These are the invisible architects of your reality. By mastering these laws, you can transform your life from the inside out. Think about it. Have you ever experienced patterns in your life that seem to repeat endlessly? Toxic relationships, financial struggles, or feelings of inadequacy? These aren't random. They're signals from your soul.
And that's what we were experiencing. There were roughly 20 girls and 20 guys. 20 girls for the girls, because we were going to have, when that first bus showed up, we were going to have 300 teenagers, 300 girls, 300 boys. So we are doing this amazing thing of fixing this whole place up, and we're having, sitting around the fires at night, and we're going, there's going to be 40 of us and 600 of them. How are we going to deal with this? And again, our two leaders, the guy who's the guy head counselor and the girl head counselor, she's already split, right? And and hasn't really contacted the home office. She, had the school, the girls' school and our school. We each had a vehicle, and there was, a safe that they had cash in. They gave these guys cash. The girl took the cash, right? And we didn't, the girls, when we said, they looked at us and said, where's the guy in charge? And we said, up there in that place. He's like freaking out. And so we decided that we should, you know, get on it and start taking care of it. He's not going to be our leader. We're going to work this as a collective. And the girls were, some of those girls were into that idea too. So it was like the Harrod experiment. Go look that one up, Harrod experiment. And this girl was reading that, and well, everyone was reading amazing stuff. And I'm reading this book about blah blah blah, right? And people were going on and on. And there was this library, like I said, there was some really great books in there. And so, I was Mr. Esoteric. Eddie was also Mr. Esoteric. There was a Jewish guy, Richie. He was, like, going to be a rabbi. Like, his grandpa was a rabbi. His daddy was a rabbi. He's going to be a rabbi. So he's well read, and he was in college already. And, so we are having truly, just like this little box is telling you about, we were all born. We decided before we were born, we were going to do this. And we were living in the moment. We were reading about Fuller and Getty, talking about this. We were reading about, all the physicists who were talking about, quantum physics. And it was amazing, right? And there was nobody who was like bored. There was nobody who was like homesick. Everyone was excited. This was the most amazing thing they ever lived. They were having all this sex. And the amazing thing about the sex was, there was no disease in those days. I mean, there was, but none of us had enough sex with the wrong people to get disease. But here we were, 40, 20 girls, 20 boys, really horny, and all up to our own, we could do whatever the frick we wanted. No one's telling us what to do. There was no control. It's no church, no nothing. And so pretty much by the second week, everyone has slept with everyone else. And then kind of gotten into relationships, meaning the two electrician girls and this one musician, and this other guy was a musician, and the archer. That was our little sexual crew. But I mean, we would have these wild, crazy dinners and then dancing all night, right? So this is going on and on and on and on. And we, and everyone has, a little, their little stash, and everyone's partying. And the little electrician girl, she, had gone off with somebody else and gotten stoned, and she brought back about 5 joints, right? And she goes, "We got to smoke this," because we really, our little crew, we were the teetotalers of it, and that was cool. No one, it was no big deal. We were wild and crazy dancers. We were, doing all kinds of fun things. And we were a crew, right? We were all a crew, and so, and everyone was respected for what they felt, and it was amazing because we after lunch we would like kids have naps. We had these little we'd get up in the sun. I me and the kitchen crew we'd make breakfast, and we'd have this really people would start working. Especially we were growing food. We kind of realized that we kind of had to do that. There was some farmer people who were like really into farming. So and what was truly amazing, the Red Cross lady, she came up a third day and she saw these girls in our thing and we're half naked running around working, and it didn't even phase her because she saw what we had done. It was like, you guys, you totally, you know. And she goes, "Where's Larry?" Oh, I think he's dead. I mean, he hasn't come out of the senior camper, thing up on the hill. He's just totally freaked out. And so, and when that first day, we talked about what are the kids like because he had been a counselor at this camp and he had known, I mean, at for this organization, and he knew the kids, right? And he he said, "Well, when you find the boys, man, all he would talk about was masturbation." It was like there's something wrong with this guy, right? So he was up there, um, all by himself. And so the Red Cross lady, she had nothing to do with the girls, but she said, "So where is your organization?" She goes, "Oh, it's in Ohio or Omaha or wherever they were." And and so she went and tried to find out about that, right? And what happened was the organization was totally disconnected from this thing. And when Red Cross lady tried to contact them, they basically wouldn't return her call and basically said, "We don't want to hear, we're like written this whole thing off, right? We gave them money, whatever they do, we're not, we don't want to." And so the Red Cross lady kind of took the girls under her wing, and she was just tripping on the way we organized everything and was a collective because she was, a sociologist, right? And she was like a socialist, and she thought this, her daddy was a wobbly, and so she thought this was the best thing since sliced bread. And she was, she's a little more, she was in her 40s, and I guess she had been a little wild and crazy, so this is like the 60s, she's in her 40s, so in the 20s and 30s, well, I think she was maybe late 40s, so she kind of had experienced a little bit of what the 20s and the 30s and World War II was kind of like, and so if not being in that time, being with those people. So she was truly amazing. That we could have gotten a real stick in the mud. Who's, "Oh no, we have to kill, close the police, put your clothes on." But she was realizing, well, this crew, they're going to get 600 boys and girls, and they're only 40, and she thought it was like stupid for this, and that we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into because we all came from Vista. And so she went, "You guys are great. You're amazing, right?" So it's all just synchronistically worked, right? So about the second week, we really got everything nailed down. Everything's good. We're realizing the only way this is really going to work is that we marry these two groups together, right? And boys and girls, not have the boys camp over here and the girls camp over here. Yeah, girls are going to stay over there, boys are going to stay over here, but their camp life is going to be together. And so we said, okay, that sounds like it's going to work. And the more we fixed, like within a week, we got the girls and the guys placed pretty much together. Everything worked. Everything was clean. The girls were much better at cleaning than we did. The girls were actually much better in the carpentry, fixing doors, and they were really pretty amazing because they pretty much all farm, out there kind of farm girls. Not all of them farm girls, but they all kind of had a sensibility of how to fix things. Anyway, so by the second week, we had it down, and we're talking about how we're going to work with these people because we realize our limitations. We have no cultural experience because the Red Cross lady, being a sociologist she is, she's really kind of trying to make us aware of what's going to happen. It's going to be like a shock. It's going to be like no matter how I tell you, what books I show you, what pictures I show you of films. Once these kids show up on a bus and walk off, it's going to be culture shock because you guys are so white, so bourgeois, so you have no real. I mean, yes, you're really great kids. You're not the usual suspects from your socioeconomic group. You guys really have heart. You're really amazing, and if anyone can pull this off, you guys can. And she was very motivating, and so and everyone's reading some amazing book, and after we wake up with the sun, and we work really hard, for about 2 or 3 hours, and then we have breakfast. Then we work hard again for about 2 or 3 hours, and that's about 1 o'clock. We have a nice lunch, a light lunch, and we basically, kind of go off into the woods, or we had this section where it was like little kid land. We would um, have naps if you were a napper, let people who wanted to, get their little freak on or whatever. So one of these afternoons, my little crew, electricians, musicians, and Archer, we had our own little, neck of the woods. We started to make camps, right? Because we were starting to, and we were calling ourselves tribes. I mean, there's only 40 of us, so, but we're making these tribal things, and so we're going okay. And so because no matter how we cleaned up the dormitory ness of it, it still felt like a prison because it was kind of, especially the military, the boys thing was like pretty amazingly. So we were making these camps that we were tribes, so we had about 12 tribes. And so we would go off and so one of these afternoons, our little nap time, this girl comes back with these, about 10 joints or 6 to 10 joints and a little bottle of rum, right? And some Cokes, right? And a bag of ice. And some Dixie cups. And she goes, "This is like all mind altering stuff. Let's try this out." So I just got stoned, and so they gave me a bottle of rum and Cokes, and these guys were close to where the kitchen was, so there was an ice machine there, and we got that working. And so, like I said, the girls' school was almost a hotel. It was a girls' school, not a military base like our place was. So anyway, so we decide, okay, let's just kick back, and we had these lounge chairs, and we had this really nice deck we made for our thing because we were right on the lake. So we had a very nice deck, had the lounge chairs on there, and we had a nice little roof, canvas roof over it. So if it rained, we could sit on the deck and enjoy the rain and not get wet, and et cetera, et cetera. So we are sitting back, and we have a couch, right? And so I'm sitting on the edge of this couch, and so my lungs are not the best. My lungs were really one of my weaker part of my body up until I was 10. And then my lungs really didn't start getting better until I became a swimmer. But I was still just, 2 years into being the swimmer, right? So I wasn't really uh, Johnny Wadsmaller yet. So anyway, we're sitting around, and the rum, a very nice rum and Coke. Oh, that's kind of nice. And yeah, right away I can kind of feel, yes, I'm okay. So I'm not getting drunk, but I'm getting a buzz from the rum and Coke, and they light up the joint and they pass it around, and I just kind of puff on a little bit, and Eddie is there, and Eddie is a smoker, and he because he liked one of the electrician girls, and so he became part of our crew, even though he wasn't an archer or a electrician or a music. Well, he kind of was a musician. So he could dance. That's what he could dance and sing. But he could he played a clarinet, but we didn't have a clarinet. He didn't bring his clarinet with him, and at that point he didn't have a clarinet. So anyway, we we're we're sitting in a circle and we're smoking this and I just kind of puff on it, and Eddie goes, "No, no, no, you have to." And what he does, he puts the lit end of the marijuana cigarette in his mouth, and he blows into it, and like this fire hose of smoke goes down my lungs, down into the bottom of my toes, and it's like goes so deep, I don't even cough. I'm just hold it in there, and I'm like, right, and I'm just blinking and crying and blinking, and start to turn red. And Eddie goes, ow, ow, start, breathe, breathe, because I'm not breathing, because I just took it all the way in and held it. And he goes, ow, breathe. And he puts his hands on my shoulders. And it's like he's not shaking me hard, but it's like I'm a tube of toothpaste. And my soul pops out of the top of my head. And I go up into a tree. And I see him. I go totally limp. And he puts me down on the ground, right? And one of the girls is one of the nursey girls, not a doctor girl, but a nursey girl. So she knows that you had to blow into my mouth and push on my heart. So Eddie's freaked out. So he's pushing on my heart, but he doesn't know how to do it. So he's like really, pushing on my chest. I don't feel anything. I'm up in a tree. I'm looking down at these guys. And I basically look around and I see all kinds of Indians all over the place. I'm going, right? And they look up and they see me up in 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 the tree. One Indian, this is the first time I get called owl. He goes, look, it's an owl. Now, I am sure if these guys are the Iroquois Nation, they're not speaking English, but I'm hearing them in English. He goes, look, and he's pointing at me, it's an owl. And I'm up in a tree, and I'm like, this is kind of interesting. I'm looking straight down at these guys, and they're all around me, and they're screaming, "Wake up, Al! Wake up! Breathe! Breathe!" And this girl is like, well, I can. The only thing I actually do feel is her lips on my lips, and this is one of the girls I really like, and she is putting everything, her life, into my lungs. He is, and basically, I'm still up on a thing, and I just love her. I just love her. I just feel this feeling of love, like it's I just I love those guys. I love them. I love them. And and I looked at Eddie. He's crying. He's saying, and everyone's crying and screaming at me to wake up and breathe. And boy, I don't look too good. And then as soon as I said, boy, I don't look too good, bang, I am back in the body. And I feel this girl's lips on my lips, and she's breathing into my lungs, and I'm breathing in her, and I feel her go inside me. And I'm going, and I'm still kind of in the tree. I mean, I'm not totally back in my body, but I'm back in my body. And and Eddie has broken two of my ribs. He is pushing on my chest so hard that he has broken two of my ribs. And I just put my hands on his hands and just squeeze them, and he stops. And everyone just just starts just hooping and hollering, and then the girl who's like got her, she's still breathing her life into my lungs and spirit and heart and everything. And then she is like totally worn out. And pretty much the girls, pretty much all the girls are bare breasted, and I'm bare breasted. She kind of collapses onto my chest and just holds me around my neck and says, I love you so much. I love you so much. It's going to make me cry right now because I just went back there. And that's what you guys can do. You can have that kind of experience.
Urging you to wake up, break the cycle, and reclaim your power. The moment you realize this, everything changes. But why don't we remember any of this? Why do we forget our pre-birth planning the moment we enter this world? The answer lies in what spiritual teachings call the veil of forgetting. This veil ensures that we start fresh, unburdened by the weight of past lives and pre-birth knowledge. It allows us to approach each challenge with a sense of novelty, free from the bias of knowing how it all ends. The veil is not a curse, it's a gift. Imagine carrying the full memory of every lifetime into your current existence. The weight of it would be unbearable. The veil allows us to focus fully on the
What would your life be like if you were a rapid transformational therapist?
present moment, to experience life with fresh eyes.
And that's what happened there. Everyone in that circle who was putting all their energy in for me to not die were right inside of me. And they were experiencing that transformational moment. My death, and then coming back, was, and they felt it. They were all, I could feel, when I was up in that tree and the Indian going, hey, it's an owl, I could feel all of their love for me, all their crying, all of their sadness, and I'm dying, and they're not, they're totally in the moment of being there with me. Right? Anyway, so the I grab Eddie's hands, and the girl's, her breasts are on my chest, and her face is on my face, and everyone kind of gets on their knees and hugs me, right? And then they kind of say, okay, how you feeling? What's going on? And two of them had run off and got the doctor girl, really the one who knew what it was, and she had her little black bag. She had gotten looked all over the place and got whatever doctory goodies we had, and she had tape and she had the stuff that you swaddle people with. It's kind of it's like a sheet, but not. Right? It comes in, so they're about 2 feet long, and anyway, she wrapped my chest and then taped it up. She goes, "It's the best I can do." When the Red Cross lady shows up, we'll have her take you down to the emergency room and make an X-ray. See what's up. And so I kind of laid. There was a mattress there. They put me on the mattress. They kind of covered me up and got me some nice tea, and basically that's when I realized that I didn't need one of the real realizations with that, being up in a tree as an owl. The real realization I really realized was that I was always there, that I didn't need to take any drugs and smoke any marijuana or drink any booze or do anything. I could be there. That this experience was important, transformational. It's transformational for everybody. Because because they were all pretty stoned, and that was one of the more stoneder times I'd ever been. And basically, I realized I didn't need to do drugs, alcohol, or anything. That everything was inside of me, right? Especially when I, felt my comrade's love for me inside of me in her breath. That was quite amazing, and that was like the grounding rod of everyone else's life, because I felt people had their hands on her while she was breathing breath into me. And I could see all that from up in the tree as the owl looking straight down at me. Anyway, so I wake up and I'm just like, First of all, and then by the time I woke up, maybe it wasn't more than 3 or 4 minutes when the doctor lady showed up, right? And examined me. She took my, she had the Red Cross lady got her some goodies, and so anyway, she had everything she needed to say, yeah, he's not dead, and he's, he just seemed to have had you know, the marijuana didn't quite go right with it. So anyway, so everyone's great. They've had this amazing experience, near death thing, and they all felt what I was. They said, you know, we saw an owl up in the tree. So everyone's starting to call me Owl. Because, okay. I didn't tell them, oh, I was out of the body. I was up in the tree, and there were Indians everywhere. And, and that's when we really decided that we were going to be Indian tribes. We had already kind of broken up into groups. We decided names for the groups, right? And so all this is like really going great, and we basically just fine tuning everything. The Red Cross lady is trying to get it, and she's contacting everybody, and our organization, the Boys Athletic League, basically, oh, we're busy. We've expanded so much. If everything's fine and everything's good, and you're there, you're good. You're the Red Cross lady. You're in charge now. You're the authority, and luckily she was, because she was amazing, right? So anyway, those weeks fly by. Everything's great. I basically have broken ribs, but it's okay. Everyone's gentle towards and we've already done all the hard work, right? And we're cleaning the place up and making piles of firewood, and you name it, we're doing it. And we're reading all the like Indian handbooks on how to be good Indians, and make fires and ceremonies and wampum, and shoes, and loincloths. Anyway, so we're going on and on and on, and the buses, and they show up at the same time. So the girls go over to the girls' side, we're over on the buses show up, and 300. They had like 16 buses with 300 teenagers. And did we get the young little kids, 7 years old, the cuties? No, right? No. What do we get? We get the 16-year-olds, the guys who were, want to be gangsters, and it's like, 20 of us and 300 of them, right? And the girls are over there, and the girls are, you know, they also get, the teenage girls, 16 and 15, and a couple of 17-year-olds, and that's what we get. And these half of these kids know each other, right? And they don't know what camp they're going to. And they've been to these camps, but not like this, because we're sending them a Marinda. It's not a boys' athletic. The girls fake it. No, and so they realize something's amiss here. That it's not like the usual, paramilitary / you're in jail camp, but this is kind of something new. And so the boys decide to, exercise their up and coming gangster maleness, right? Because there's only 20 of us and 300 of them, and so they end up, and they get out the buses, and the the buses leave immediately. There's none of those guys stick around to just like maybe watch our backs or anything. And for some reason, the Red Cross lady isn't there either, right? And so it's just us. And the guy who's like the head guy, he comes down, and he goes, doesn't like, so I'm in charge. He finds this boy who is, 17, and they kind of look at each other, and they go up to the guy's, you know, little cabin up there that he's been, staying in. And we're going, huh. And so the guys kind of go nuts. They start burning things like buildings. And wait, we just fixed this. No, no, no. And we're doing that. And they are just going frigging nuts, right? And so the girls come over, and the our girls are trying to tell the girls, no, let's we had a plan and we're gonna see him tomorrow. But the girls come over because they realize that their girls can't control them at all either, because we're trying to be the Harvard experiment. These girls are gangsters, right? So, and the girls, they go straight to whatever boy they know, and they start like, they find the booze and they find our pot, and they're just ignoring us completely. And it's like, oh, we had this idealistic, everything's going to be, because we had, almost a month of the most amazing thing. And the Red Cross lady, she tried to give us a heads up that it wasn't going to work out like that, and that we better be prepared. And we really weren't. Right? One reason why I think she wasn't there was she didn't want to see what terrible thing would, she loved us so much and thought we were so great, and tried to explain to us that this wasn't going to work right off the bat, that what's going to happen, right? So anyway, it goes into just total bedlam, right? They are just destroying everything, burning, smashing, crashing, ripping things apart. And we turn around because we're thinking, we better get in the freaking car and drive out of here. And we basically go to where the camp car is, and it's frigging gone. And we go up to see where our fearless leader is, and he is taken the money out of the safe and taken that young man with him, and they are gone. We do not have our camp car anymore. And so the girls, they go, because the girls and the boys are now over in the boys section, which is probably a good thing, because the boys thing was rattier than the girls. The girls' place was, like I said, the nice place. So the girls, they all came over, and the girls and the boys were just going hog crazy wild, getting drunk on whatever booze we had left, and whatever pot that was left, and basically ignoring us completely. So we go over the girls' thing and basically turn all the lights and everything off, just at the main, so they can't even find the place. We get in the girls' car. There's like 40 of us stuck in this little truck thing, bus, and we drive down to the Old Holy Christ diner, right? And it was like this Baptist, Methodist, churchy donut shop, and we're at 20. It's right off of 17, and so it's like open 20. It's like a truck stop. It's a Christiany, right? And so we're there, and we're we look like we just came out of a war zone. I mean, we got mud and dirt, and you know and half, we're wearing our Indian outfits, and the girls are half dressed, and we're wearing moccasins, and we're there, and we have really no money, whatever little money we have, right? We have, and so we're sitting down there, and the highway patrol guys are there, and they know us. We've been there for a month, and we come down, we go to town, we stop off at the diner, get a cheeseburger every now and then, and we go to the movies. The drive-in was right over there. We did that, and so they know who we are, and but we really look a mess, right? So this one guy goes, I'm gonna go get your Red Cross friend. She just lives in the next town over. I think you guys need her. So he goes off and gets her, and the cops are like kind of laughing at us because they keep calling us hippies, not no flower children, because the hippie thing really wasn't there yet. That was a Nixon thing. So we were, oh, you flower children, you're so innocent, blah 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 blah. You don't know the real world, blah 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 blah. And half of those guys had been from Vietnam, they're and so they're kind of pretty sympathetic because they're only like maybe half of those guys were only maybe 4 years, 5 years older than we were, and so they're kind of amused by it all, and they know our hearts. And like I said, we had been around town and the drive-in and this place, and we gone to church. You know, these girls were very churchy girls, and but they didn't like the religion part of it, but they liked the church. Anyway, so and a couple of those girls were minister daughters, so they knew the Bible, they knew how to preach, and they, you know, girls weren't preachers yet, but these girls were definitely are preachers. So, but we are shell shocked. You know, we are, and a couple of Vietnam vets look at us and go, "Boy, you guys look like you just went through dealing with the Kong." You know, so anyway, the Red Cross lady comes over, and you look up on the hill, and it's glowing up there, meaning things are on fire. And so she goes, "Oh, it's worse than I thought." And we go, "Yeah, it's we don't, you know, you were right. We have no idea what what it was going to be. We're totally outnumbered, out everything. We have no idea what's going on, you know." And so she goes, "Well, we have to have a plan." And so Eddie goes because Eddie was a really street wise guy, and he's the only person of color. There were no cops. None of the cops were cops of color. They were all white. You know, the Red Cross lady, white. We're all white. Eddie was the only black guy, right? So the thing's burning up there, and the Forest Service guy comes down, and he goes, "You know, I saw the. It seemed like a forest fire was over there, and I went up there, and there's about 1,000 people up there, and they are going freaking nuts, and they have a gigantic. They ripped that place apart, and whatever piece of wood they could get, they have a gigantic bonfire going, and it's right by the lake, and it's like doesn't look like it's going to catch, you know, your big building on fire. It doesn't look like it's going to catch the forest on fire. They at least had some safe, you know, fire safety, but it's a friggin' gigantic fire, and they're just, you know, they're pounding anything, you know, they're dancing around, they're going nuts, and the Red Cross lady goes, "Well, that's good because they're getting, they're having this, you know, ecstatic kind of release, right?" So she goes to Forest Service guys, "Can you go get your, you know, over there where the fire truck is? Can you kind of go up on your Forest Service road that approaches it from uh, the military school and just kind of keep an eye on it so it, you know, if the fire does break out, you could kind of make sure the whole forest fire does." And it had been raining and it wasn't really dry and it wasn't, you know. And they said, "Sure, we can do that." So they go do that, and we're sitting there, and lady, and we're drinking coffee, and there's really no place to go to sleep, and we're like strategizing what we're going to do. And she goes, "So we're going to let them be up there, and we're going to go up there, and we're going to. They're going to have no food, right? So I'm going to go back to the Red Cross ladies, and we have these boxes that we have meals like nice eggs and biscuits and bacon and sausage, and we can make boxes of those, right? And we can have donuts. You know, we got that down, right? So we're gonna go get that together and get the Red Cross truck together, and we're gonna have coffee and donuts and boxes of these biscuit sandwiches to go, right? And so what's gonna happen is and Eddie came up with this great idea. He goes, "So we're going to go up there around 9 a.m. And first, the fire truck, we're going to go talk to the, you know, the guys, the Forest Service guys in their fire truck. And we're going to have them come from that end. And the police cars are going to drive up from here with the sirens and lights blaring. And we're going to come up that road up into the camp from this end, and the fire truck come from the other end, and we're going to get out with a bullhorn, and we're going to tell them that they have a choice. That they, and they probably be like half asleep and hungover, and they're not going to be really ready to be belligerent, right? Yes, there are going to be more than almost 1,000 up there, but you know, I think we can, and so there'll be all these cops. We can get 16 cops in their state uniforms and their Nazi look, and I will be the black guy with the megaphone. I'm going to wear my mirrored sunglasses. I'm going to put on my dashiki and basically tell them, okay, this is it. You got a choice here, kids. This is your camp, not our camp. We're going to run it the way you want it to be run. We have been here fixing it up for you. We expected that you would just love to see what we had prepared for you. But no, we're going to let you pick out what you want to do. We're going to show you what we did. You want to do what we kind of had an idea, and we wanted you to be in control of it to begin with. It's your camp, not ours. We're here to serve you, right? Not as servants, but as examples of what you can be. We all come from really different. All these people here were here to be with you. They decided to come up here to take time out of their life and had nothing to do with this place. They have no idea about this. They want to know you. They want to know what this is about because they see the country changing and that you kids are the ones that are going to change it. And they want to be part of that. So Eddie's really got it done. So that's, one thing you can choose. The other thing you can choose, if you want to be the gangster scumbags that you portrayed yesterday, well, the police are here. The buses are going to be here in an hour, and the police are going to put you on that bus, right? And the fire trucks are over there with a fire hose, and if you think you can, muscle past, a fire hose being shot on you, you've seen what they did in Selma. We're going to do that to you. If that's what you want, so you got a choice. You can go this new path, and it be your camp. You do it the way, we're going to be here to facilitate, not tell you what to do. So you can be your best, right? And then the, Red Cross truck came up with the sandwiches and coffee and said, but before you make that idea, you need to do it on a full stomach. So here, everyone get online. We're going to be passing out the donuts and passing out these little boxes with nice breakfast and cups of coffee and tea and water. And we're going to all sit over there under the tree, and that's going to be where we come together. So we did that, and we had it really, these Red Cross people really good because then I get online, everyone over the tree, and the truck pulled over there, and everyone, they just kind of just passed the food out to everyone. Like within 5 minutes, everyone had a cup of something, a couple of donuts, and a nice box of couple of biscuits with gravy and eggs and sausage and bacon, right? And we just kept pumping that stuff out, and they just kept eating it and going, okay. And we kept talking about, okay, we want to hear from you. We're sitting in a circle. There's almost 900 of you. We're just going to, here's a feather. You just set the guy next to you. You say your name, where you're from, how you're feeling right now, what you want your summer to be, pass it to the next guy. Take about 2 minutes, 3 minutes per person. We go all around, and we got all day to do this, right? If we do this, we keep doing this, we're going to get on the radio and not call the buses, right? And did, right? So these kids realized that the buses were never going to come. They realized that the fire truck was, it was a little fire truck to put out, you had to stick a hose into a lake to pump water. There was no hydrant, there was no like Selma kind of fire hose, but it was a good little prop. And they realized they actually did have the power and the ability to make a choice about their life. They no longer had to feel, jilted, cheated, uh, treated like the other. They could be whatever they wanted to be for this month and a half, right? And there were three different groups that came, right? And each group had about a month and a half. So first, they gave us the oldest kids first, which was stupid, but actually was the best thing. Everything about this worked out for the best because all of us, even the kids, everybody did exactly what that boy said, had thought about this before they were born. This this was something that they had put on their bucket list to have this experience, right? So we're all sitting around in a circle. We're going around with a feather. Everyone's really kind of, and some people, the second time around, the kids are starting to cry because no one's ever treated us this way. I feel safe, even though last night was crazy. Even that I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like I was in danger because I was with people my own age, and nobody here was hurting each other. We were just letting off a lot of steam. I mean, that was the basic message, right? And that they didn't burn the place down to the ground. They just made a gigantic bonfire, right? Which became the legend of our what we were known for, right? So anyway, we went around, and then we said, okay, this is kind of what we told them how we got here and what it was, and that we kind of the girls didn't know there was a guys camp here, and the guys didn't know there was a girls camp. We started to fix our places up because they were total rat holes. Nobody had been here for 20 years. Nothing worked. And the girls realized that we were over here after the first day and came over. Then they worked as a team, and then we turned. We stopped being white. We stopped being Americans, and this place has so much Indian energy in it, and there's this big library with all this Indian lore in it, and there's this a place where all of the they we can make any kind of clothes we want, and we made Indian clothes. We're all and the girls, we've been all wearing. The girls have been we've been going bare chested, and we don't feel ashamed, and we feel proud to be a woman, and we're happy that these guys are these kind of guys and not jerks, and we become a family and a community, and we become tribes. And out in the woods out here, we have 20 different tribes, and we're going to show you all the different tribes we are, and you guys can pick whatever tribe you want to be in. And if you want to, you can invent your own tribe. You don't have to keep the name of this campsite. You can name it whatever you want to name it. Oh, I'm gonna have to leave, guys, because the battery's about to die. So come back and hear how this story ends. How about that? Do it tomorrow.